time. But let's start here. Some interesting news that I found out about today, and I don't think that this has been made public yet. It is coming, maybe even should have already, but expect to see the details of it out soon. There's a new name, image, and likeness deal that is in the works for Ole Miss. It's not in place yet. Now, this is different than some of the other things that you've heard about. There have been some smaller funds that have been put together through message board communities. There is something that Parrish offered. I think it was Parrish that wrote about it with the Daily Journal over the weekend, called the Grove Collective, that is based in the Jackson area, that is going to focus primarily on Ole Miss football, may benefit some other sports as well. Hey, Dad, several months back, we had a conversation with Lee Van Horn, who was working on a name, image, likeness company and a deal that was, I think, specifically targeted to initially benefit Mississippi State baseball. So there's a lot of this that's been out there, but this is, I think, unique and the first of its kind, not just in the state of Mississippi, but I think, based on the information that I've been able to gather, in the entire country. Now, you may remember a conversation that we had a few weeks ago, maybe even a couple of months back, on this show about whether or not it would make sense for cities, local communities that are college towns, getting involved in name, image, and likeness. And while I think we thought we were having a unique conversation, that was a conversation that was already going on behind the scenes in the Oxford area. The Oxford-Lafayette County Chamber of Commerce, in conjunction with the Economic Development Foundation, is launching an NIL program for businesses and individuals that are part of the chamber. And it is going to, once it's fully funded, and they're planning on launching this later this spring and having it fully operational by the time school starts next fall, it will provide a monetary benefit to every single student athlete at Ole Miss. It won't be a football specific or a baseball specific thing, but they're looking at having three kind of tranches of money. An overall fund where every student athlete will get a certain number of dollars monthly or by semester or by the year. I don't know exactly how they're going to divide it up. And then there will be a fund that can be a little more specifically directed. So if somebody wants to give a little bit more money but says, hey, I want my money to go directly to softball, then it can do that. And then there's like a higher level where if you're a bigger donor and you want to target it to a specific athlete, you would even be able to do that. But at its core, the idea is that there is not a bigger economic driver for Oxford as a community than on-field success for Ole Miss athletics, which makes sense, right? When your teams are good, more people come to town. When more people come to town, they spend more money in businesses and restaurants and stay in hotels, and there's a tax implication for the city and all of those things.
Yeah, I don't know if 100,000 people are showing up to town to watch a professor's lecture. So, yeah, that makes sense.
Or not even a professor's lecture, but a team that is underachieving. I mean, if your teams aren't any good, then fewer people come to town to watch them. But ultimately, the idea, kind of the economic development piece of this, which some people might say, well, that's a little bit of a stretch to say that name, image, and likeness can tie into economic development. But the idea is this. An economic development foundation, whether you're talking about Oxford or you're talking about the Golden Triangle or you're talking about Auburn, Opelika, or wherever, their mission and their goal is to bring business and provide incentives for businesses to come. Well, this is providing incentive to make existing businesses better and more profitable, and so it's kind of a fascinating deal. I think the numbers are going to are not the numbers, but the details of this are going to come out very, very soon. But I just found that to be really fascinating, especially in light of the conversation that we had earlier. And as I said to start this, it's my understanding, and there's been some research done behind the scenes, that there's no other college town in the United States that's doing this exactly right now. Now, if the model's rolled out and it works, I can't imagine that it will take long for this to be replicated locally, regionally, nationally, whatever. Does it work as well in a place like Nashville or Lexington as it does a place like Oxford or Starkville or Fayetteville or Auburn? Probably not. But in smaller towns where there is this just like inextricable tie and relationship between the college/university and the town itself, makes a heck of a lot of sense. There's some pretty cool forward thinking going on there, I think.
Absolutely. And we talk about all the time, right? With the programs in this state, there are some things that you just can't really overcome. It's a small state population-wise, pretty rural state, all that stuff. And that's kind of a hindrance on the success of the programs in this state as opposed to like a Southern Cal, which is based in Los Angeles. So there are some challenges to overcome, but things like this are what have to happen around here to try to level the playing field the best you can. It has to be done like this. You have to find a way to maximize the potential for stuff like this in order to be competitive. And, if it's a blanket dollar amount that at first doesn't jump off the page at you, say that to the baseball player who's getting a 15% scholarship, or the softball player that's getting a % scholarship. And I don't know if you remember what it was like being a college kid. I wasn't on scholarship because I wasn't smart enough to get much scholarship money, got a very small amount. However much money it is, being in your pocket on a monthly basis always helps college kids. So, yeah. I mean, this is pretty awesome, and this is what needs to happen for the programs in this state, and in this case specifically Ole Miss, to try to level the playing field. You've got to be more creative than Alabama, and this is a way that you can do that. I'm sure they'll do this too in Tuscaloosa, but for now, you're doing it.
And there's a secondary layer that goes along with this also, and that's they're putting in like a mentorship/internship component. Now, obviously, this is something that student athletes will have to opt into, but it's like there's not going to be a lot of time commitment for them. But there also is like, okay, if you're on a career path to be a physical therapist, then they're going to work to try and set up mentorship programs or relationship programs that you could have with a physical therapy company. I'm just completely using that as an example. Don't quote me on that one specifically, but that's going to be part of this as well. And there are going to be some community service opportunities for student athletes to participate in to satisfy we're not just giving you money and getting nothing for it in return. Similar to some of these other NIL entities that are popping up, they didn't happen immediately because there were some I's to dot and some T's to cross and, compliance issues to make sure that they're recovering. And it sounds like that they have kind of pulled those things together. It'll be interesting to see where this